I ask that you hand down a sentence that tells us that what was done to us matters, with the greatest protection the law can offer, the greatest measure of justice available. And to everyone who is watching, I ask that same question. How much is a little girl worth?
Recently, the Pope has said something interesting.
Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life.
Is he right? Is opposing abortion morally equivalent to opposing the death penalty? Or, put in another way, is killing a child in the womb the same as executing a heinous criminal? It does seem contradictory to argue for the sanctity of every human life, but then exclude death row inmates. Why not be pro-all life instead of just pro-preborn baby? Isn't it true that all lives matter? It is a gross misapplication of logic to suggest that punishing the innocent is just as valid as punishing those who have done atrocious evil. So not only does the Pope's statement fail in the logic department, but it also breaks down in the justice department. And it also flies in the face of what the Bible actually teaches. In the Bible, God actually institutes the death penalty for civilizations following Noah's flood, to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed, for in the image of God he made man. That's how much God values the lives of those made in his image. This is in keeping with how seriously God deals with those who endanger others' lives. When God says, "When I say to the wicked, you will certainly die, and you do not warn him or speak out to warn the wicked from his wicked way so that he may live, that wicked person shall die for wrongdoing, but his blood I will require from your hand." And then again, in the New Testament, God makes clear that he ordains earthly magistrates to do his will in earthly judicial systems. Every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. For rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same, for it is a minister of God to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid, for it does not bear the sword for nothing, for it is a minister of God, an avenger who brings wrath on the one who practices evil. So you see, to God, sanctity of life doesn't mean sparing lives all the time, but it means requiring accountability from people and protecting them from injustice. Poisoning and dismembering babies is not the same as executing bloodthirsty villains. To view those two things as morally equivalent shows the Pope's lack of biblical literacy and fallacious logic. Now, do earthly law enforcement officers get out of hand? Absolutely. They are never perfect, and sometimes even downright corrupt and wicked, like when Roman Emperor Diocletian brutally persecuted Christians, and many other tyrannical regimes do today. And Christians, as God's emissaries, should rightly hold them accountable. And are people sometimes put on death row due to false accusations? Yes, this should break our hearts. But as we read, the civil magistrates are God's appointed way of exercising his sovereign governance over the nations. So of course, we should hold our law enforcement officers accountable and care about the vindication of the falsely accused. But these exceptions do not give us the excuse to justify anarchy.
We take Gotham from the corrupt, the rich, the oppressors of generations who have kept you down with myths of opportunity. And we give it back to you, the people.
They'll arm oppressed people all over the world so they can finally rise up and kill those in power and their children and anyone else who takes their side.
Scripture is clear. We must strive to vindicate the righteous, protect the innocent, and not acquit the guilty, lest we pervert justice. I also want to address the other part of Pope Leo's blunder, his critique of what he perceives as harshness toward the immigrant.
So someone who says that I'm against abortion, but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States. I don't know if that's pro-life.
While our hearts should go out to those in difficult circumstances, the Bible never advocates for illegal immigration. Pope Leo conveniently leaves that I word out. We do not want to invite invasion in the name of welcoming the stranger. The Bible does command to care for the sojourner, as the Israelites too were sojourners in Egypt. If outsiders are genuinely fleeing persecution and needing asylum, a country should do all it can to grant them refuge, but not at the cost of neglecting its own citizens. The Bible repeatedly speaks of the priority of one's own, as Jesus speaks here. If you were of the world would love its own, but because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this, the world hates you. And here's a clear command, to prioritize looking after one's family first. But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. In his exchange with the Syrophoenician woman, Jesus assumes as fact the priority to one's family, as he answered and said, "It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." The Bible also stresses the importance of this priority for pastors. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? The Bible also speaks positively of borders in many places, showing God at one point even dividing people purposefully into different groups in order to prevent them from easily uniting in sin and rebellion against him. So yes, we should be friendly and loving to refugees, but not to the point of lawlessness and border abandonment. God's way of rule is that of order and good difference, drawing proper boundaries between good and evil, and between an innocent victim and a guilty evildoer. At numerous points, the Bible mentions child sacrifice as an abomination, not even close to punishing an evildoer too harshly. The Pope will do well to forsake his moral equivocation and pride, and re-examine his priorities, as the rest of us should. Are they God's priorities, or your own?